stop looking at other people and honor your own timeline. So today I'm picking up on part 2 of where I left off yesterday, and it's on redirection, not rejection. So yesterday I started talking about how a lot of times we'll think we are out of alignment when in actuality we are exactly where we need to be. The problem is that we're listening to other people. We have our own expectations of ourselves. We've over internalized what everyone else is telling us should be our life. We've over internalized the messaging of you should be doing this by this age in this place, blah, 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 blah. Right. And it took me a extremely long time. Honestly, it took me too long to just realize someone else's life isn't my path. My path isn't theirs and theirs isn't mine, right? This also goes for me. I don't need to look at someone else's path and say they should be a certain place, right? I don't know what their actual healing journey is either. And so I want to talk about life between the lines, okay? After the detour, a lot of times is the healing, right? But you have to have those in between places. And what I mean by that in between the lines, is from one place to the next. For example, from one job, fired twice, blah, 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 to the next place I needed to arrive, which was reconnecting to my birth family. That in between time, that was from 2012, I got fired twice. Once at the beginning, then in the middle. It was 2014 at the beginning when I found my family, right? So you're talking a year and a half. It's not a quick journey, but there's that in between. So in between being fired and in between reconnecting. Or it could be in between being fired from one job to being hired on the job that I want to be on, or creating the business that I want to create. Between that time and this, there's something that occurs, right? And so it took a while for me. Everyone is different though. What I'm telling you may have taken me a year, may take you 2 days. It could take you 6 months, right? There's no one formula. And I think that's the hard part to life. There is no one size fits all formula. Just there isn't. Because we're all different. We have different backgrounds, experiences, education, expectations. All of those things culminate to make us who we are, but that also makes us complex. And so, whereas you could have a friend whose life goes like this, your life may go like this, right? It may not be linear, it may be circular for you. And that's okay. The issue comes in when we compare our own journey, where we should be, to where someone else is. And again, I'm speaking about this in terms of outside judgment, but you also internalize and have your own judgment on yourself. I had to learn this about myself. I pressured myself on where I thought I should be, when, how, where, and what it should look like. And so, yeah, it was just alignment to the right, correct path. And so I had to learn, number 2, to make peace with my timeline, not comparing it to anyone else's, right? For a long time, I felt like I was watching other people pass me by. And in some instances, I was. When I was held back in basic training twice, other people literally passed me by. When I thought I would finish undergrad the first time in 2006, and then I didn't finish till 2008, other people passed me by. I looked stagnant. I got looked down on. I was talked about. It felt uncomfortable. It was a blow to the ego. It made me feel ashamed, right? And for a while, seemingly people were passing me because they were continuing, and I looked like I was just stuck and like I was stagnant, right? I suffered because I started comparing myself. I had to get over feeling ashamed, right? Just these things came with my process, but they weren't all to the process, right? Also, like I mentioned before, during this time, my character was being, refined. I was actually being set on the correct path. I just didn't realize it. It took me a really extremely long time to get past what I'm talking about happened to the point where I started realizing that was my timeline and that was my alignment. For a long time, I just didn't think like that. I just wouldn't even think about it or look at it because I was so ashamed until I started this YouTube channel and I had decided I'm going to open my mouth and start sharing parts of my story that had me in shame and had me closed off. Those are the parts I'm going to share because this may help someone else through something similar or a hard time in their life. That's it. I've only recently started talking about this. It's still fairly new, right? Maybe the last couple of years. Like, I've been on podcasts, I've had some speaking engagements, but I'm just saying, like, uncovering all of these areas where I felt like I was out of alignment, where I felt like I was out of time, where I felt like I was left behind. This is something that, I had to really work through and had to start seeing it, if you will, reframing it to see my life in the trajectory that I took. Next, so I had, during that time of being fired and going back to school, I reconnected and reclaimed my original birth identity, right? And so doing that, for me, having been separated from my birth family for 30 years, helped me with identity. Now, for those who grew up with your family, this may not be something you can quite relate to or understand, but if you grow up separated from your family, you don't get a full reflection of who you are biologically. And so what does that look like? What I mean is, I have certain quirks and certain likes and dislikes, and reconnecting to my birth family, like, showed me that some of those similarities, some of those tastes are biological, right? I didn't have a reflection, like a direct reflection of myself being mirrored back to me. And that's something that's just a silent affirmation. This gets deep. You have to, you have to look this stuff up. But for a baby who can't speak, for example, if they're in their mother's arms and they look at their mother's looking back, they see a face that's got similarities. So not having that, not being able to fully articulate some things about myself or even understand them was hard. So this reconnection, finding my family, was extremely important. And it's been important for me reclaiming my voice, for me speaking up, for me even doing this YouTube channel, right? For me fully 100% and unapologetically showing up as myself. I had to find out who that self was, so to speak. And so ways that I processed it, I cried, I journaled, I didn't process it sometimes, right? So getting back to Joseph that I was talking about in the previous videos, Joseph had been disconnected from his family for about 25 years before the famine hit and his brothers came back to or had to go to Egypt, and he reconnected with them. That was about a 23, 25 year journey, right? And that's a long time. And the person that you develop into from the time that you left, one place to the time that you reconnect to the people you knew, you're a whole different person. So for Joseph's life, that looked like being sold into slavery and not knowing where he would be. Being put in the first place, he was, sold to someone, and he was over their home. He was doing great. Well, then his boss's wife wanted to sleep with him. He said no, and he was still thrown into prison, right? Like, as if he had done something wrong. So he went from afraid to living in a nice place and having a good job, back to being afraid and being in prison, with also a criminal history now, stamped on him. Because let's just be clear, if you're in prison, people think you're guilty anyway. People think you're guilty and you're not in prison. We just judge each other really harsh. So what I'm saying is, for Joseph, his journey was just given all the things, right? The judgment, the shame. He thought he had overcome it, only to find himself back in that same place. And so, yeah, in that place, he grappled with and had to come to a lot of understandings, I'm sure, right? And so, number 4, another lesson, I'm looking at my notes. So during this time, this in between, from one place to the next, or from whatever to whatever is coming next to you, it could be jobs, it could be you're not where you want to be, but you're on the way there, right? You learn a lot of valuable lessons. Now, this is what we don't want to do. This is the hard work, right? Excuse me. This is where you learn to trust your own voice, to trust your own journey, to trust your own path and your own instincts. But this can be a hard time. Excuse me. You have to learn boundaries. When I say boundaries, I don't even always mean boundaries with other people. I mean boundaries with yourself, right? You have to, like, for me, I use myself as an example. I had to learn a boundary on caffeine. Don't drink caffeine after 2 because then I won't sleep at night. Things like that. Something so simple, but it's something that you learn as you're being refined, as you're growing, right? Boundary with yourself on maybe how much media you consume, how much social media you consume. Things that I had to start figuring out. A boundary on how much to speak. So back to Joseph. Joseph, initially, when we meet him, is young, right? He's like 17. He's the baby of the family. He's the clear favorite, right? Not Joseph's dad and making him a coat that's just more fire than everybody's coat, right? The coat of many colors just probably sounds like it was expensive to have made, right? For Joseph to open his big mouth, I'm going to say it, prematurely, right, at that time, talking about a dream he had had. That's who we first meet when we meet Joseph. Who we get later, the man who's in prison serving a sentence and interpreting someone else's dream, was humble. Before he even attempted to interpret the dream of the cupbearer and the bread, the dude who brought the bread to the king. Is he called like a bread bearer? No, the baker, cupbearer and the baker. Before he even attempted, right, to interpret anything, he was like, God interprets dreams. God gives the interpretation. He went from, oh, this is my dream, to, hey, God got to give me these answers. I would like to try it, but God ultimately decides if I get the insight or not. Whole different mindset. He didn't just immediately blab. Again, lessons I've learned. Don't immediately just start blabbing. Things I just learned over the years. And even though, and this is the hard part about being younger and then ambitious, but then older with wisdom, you just have some things you just have to learn. You can be warned. You can use other people's life as an example, which is what I'm hoping a lot of people do by listening to me. Just use it as an example. But some lessons are character refinement. So again, back to Joseph. He learned not to speak before time. He learned to give credit where credit was due before he even attempted to try to say he knew what he was talking about. He was really humble. He interpreted the dream of the baker, told the baker, you're going to be executed. The cupbearer told the cupbearer, you're going to be restored to your position. And it happened. The baker was killed. The cupbearer was taken back to Pharaoh and restored back as the cupbearer, which was the person who brought the liquor, wine, whatever you want to call it, probably wine, I don't know. The point was restored. But Joseph's words to the cupbearer, please don't forget me. Don't forget that I interpreted your dream. Now, you know the cupbearer forgot Joseph, honey. This is what happens. Sometimes we meet people, and it's not their fault. I've learned it's not my time to be remembered, right? Sometimes you're still being refined. So, my point, excuse me, I probably should stop and drink some water. But my point is that Joseph ended up having to still wait. What happened after that was, it had been a while, I'm not sure exactly how long. He interpreted the cupbearer's dream. The cupbearer goes back to work for Pharaoh like Joseph said he would. And then Pharaoh starts having dreams and can't nobody interpret them dreams. Nobody. He done called in magicians, child. He done listen, palm read everybody. Nobody knows what the dream is. And that's when the cupbearer remembered, hey, when I was in prison, really, because Pharaoh sent him there, honey. But he had to say it like, oh, when my Pharaoh was just displeased with my service. You was about to be killed. But that's a different story. When he saw no one could interpret Pharaoh's dream, he remembered that Joseph had interpreted his dream. And Pharaoh was like, go get Joseph right now. Now, Joseph was in prison. Joseph was in prison, right? Serving a sentence for something he did not do. Probably for most of us, just serving a sentence for something we didn't do would have us tripped up. I don't know if I would have wanted to interpret anyone's dream. But you know what? Side story. Okay, so I was held back in basic twice. Like I got held back for my runtime, not being able to complete the correct runtime. But I do remember while I was in basic at night, people would come to me and ask me to pray for them. Y'all, I was praying for people and they was leaving and I was still stuck. Okay, like I'm talking about the in between. I'm talking about the being overlooked. I'm talking about all of that. This is a true story. I would pray for people at night. I had taken my Bible in with me, and so I would read my Bible a lot because I was distressed, child. I was homesick, and again, I had been held back. Got to my last week of basic training. I was praying this was my last week. I had to pass all my physical requirements. I wasn't sure if this was going to be my last week. I was like, God, please don't let me get stuck up in here no more. Right? Get to my last week. The leader, she comes up to me. No, she sent somebody to get me. It was like, tell Hunter, because we went by last name. Tell Hunter to come here. I went over to her like side of the room, was like, hey, what's up? She said to me, God told me to tell you, you were not held back for yourself. You were held back for other people so that you could pray for them. You were not held back for you, but it was for others. In that moment, I didn't know how to take it. Like, not young Kimberly, baby, because I was in my early 20s. Like, what did you talking about? Like, what you mean? I done got held back and embarrassed up in this thing to pray for other people. So I was about to talk noise and say I couldn't relate to Joseph, but did I have a held back for other people moment? Probably more than I realized. That time, God just sent somebody to tell me. And I didn't know how to respond. I think I just stared at her. I stared at her. She stared at me. I stared at her. She stared at me. I was like, okay. Like, what do you mean? Anyway, next, moving on. The point. My whole point that I was making. Joseph was there. He ended up interpreting the correct person's dream. This person remembered him. And he woke up in prison, got sent for, went to bed in Pharaoh's home as the second in command. Boom, boom, boom. The thing about seasons is when they change, right? I don't know if they talked about PTSD back then, but think about it. Like he was in prison, and then the same day, that night, in a nice, cushy environment. I don't know how I would have taken that. Anyway, what was I? Where was I? I'm trying to look at my notes. The point, you can be held back so that you can speak and impart into others. Like I've gotten lost on my notes. I don't even know where they were. My next point. In between seasons teach you how to forgive, how to release, and how to move forward. And it's hard lessons. Now, honestly, the more I think about this, and I probably really need to spend time thinking about this, the season could probably go a lot faster if I released my anger, my hurt, my shame a lot quicker. But of course, we're human. And so then we find ourselves, I'll speak for me, I found myself grappling with different things that I had to learn to release. I learned to release it by journaling. I learned affirmations, right? I learned to breathe deep. Like I do breathing meditations now. I stretch, I walk, I do yoga. I don't share, but I'll get like massages, anything to just deal with on every level of myself, whatever has hurt me, the shame, all of it, right? But again, you have to learn these things as you go. And so you have to learn to stop internalizing people's judgment. You have to, because people, and myself included, may judge without understanding the full scope of someone's story, right? The point, the truth is you're called to walk a certain path. And it may not be the same path as those around you. You're still supposed to be walking your path. Next, how to navigate rejection and social judgment. I got off into this a little bit, right? With Joseph's story, but you'll be misunderstood sometimes when it looks like you're on the wrong path. You could be overlooked. Again, Joseph interpreted a dream. It came true. And the dude forgot about him. Like he did. And probably not on purpose, right? Everybody's not being malicious. Okay. Often it's an appointed time for things to come into fruition, but it does not feel like that when you're in the moment. When I was held back in basic, right? I couldn't get out of basic. Didn't feel like appointed times going on. Did not feel like that. Didn't feel like that. I felt like a failure. I felt ashamed. I felt like, oh my God, am I going to be stuck forever? Woo, it was a lot. When I didn't graduate when I originally wanted to from undergrad, I felt ashamed. I felt stuck in life. I felt overlooked. I was overlooked. When I didn't graduate at a certain time, people started dealing with and talking to me different. Like I was a failure. That's how people started handling me. And that's what I started to internalize. I mean, when I got fired twice, right? People started coming at me like I had failed. I internalized it. I felt like I failed. It's just things really do cause us, or has the ability to cause us to just feel like failures, to feel ashamed. And we have to figure out how to navigate that, right? People don't always believe in you, but you have to develop belief in yourself anyways. People may not understand your path, but you have to start. And I don't know why I'm sharing all this, right? This isn't even, some of this isn't even in my notes, but I feel really strongly that I'm supposed to encourage someone. It could be one person. You have to believe in you. You have to know you're on the right path. It could be everybody you know may not agree with your path, and that's okay. And that's okay because it's your path. They may not have the blueprint for it. Sometimes I don't even know if I have the full blueprint for my own path. That's a different video for a different day. The point, you have to leave people's stuff with them and develop your own belief in yourself, right? I'm pretty sure Joseph had to develop deep belief in himself, his abilities, even to put himself back out there to interpret the dream of the baker and the cupbearer, right? And he still was in prison for a while. Next, I think this is my final point. You have to start seeing yourself in alignment with divine timing. So your life is unfolding exactly as it needs to, and you have to develop the understanding on that yourself. No one may be able to help you with that. People don't even know their own timing and their own full story sometimes. We're all grappling with this. And so I'm not saying that you can't talk to anyone. I'm just saying the answers you need may not come from anyone around you. And that's okay. They may not have the insight. They may not get shown that part of who you are or where you're going. They just may not. And it's okay. You have to learn how to just be at peace for yourself. Again, it's a process learning all of this. This isn't something that you just roll over and know all the time. It's a process. It's day by day. It's week by week. It's month by month, year to year. I don't want to keep going. I want to start saying like decades because it gets scary. But it's just a part of your refinement, a part of your growth. And so I want to invite you to journal. Where in your life are you holding yourself to someone else's timeline, right? Or even a timeline you thought you would be on, but you're not there. Is there anywhere in your life that you're holding that hostage? And what if your detour is your alignment, right? So I want to invite you to deeply reflect on those questions. I'm going to remember to put them in the description. And I just want you to be encouraged. Just know that, and I mean, I'm speaking from experience. I'm not just coming on here saying what I heard. I am speaking to you from real life, true experience. I'm talking about I've been rejected. I was left behind. I did get fired, okay? I'm telling you, it's not a fairy tale and it's not always easy to process, but you will get through it, right? You can get through it and you can come out better than you thought you'd come out. Again, I want to encourage you to just start focusing on your own journey, seeing your own alignment, and just seeing yourself going forward and getting to wherever it is that you want to be. I am Kimberly. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next video.